Joined now on the broadcast by Gordon Hunter, Professor Emeritus at the University of Lethbridge, who has written a book, Hockey Talk, Stories Behind the Voice. Gordon, I'll start with the open question. Describe this book to us.
It's a book of 49 play-by-play guys in major junior and provincial junior A across Canada, from BC all the way out to you in the Maritimes.
It's certainly an interesting concept. What was the inspiration behind this? I've obviously partaken myself, contributing a chapter, as did the other broadcasters. What was the inspiration for going across the country and getting all these guys to write down their stories?
I have two major points with regards to inspiration, Patrick. But first of all, I want to thank you for putting me in touch with a number of the play-by-play guys that ended up being in the book, having chapters in the book. And so you're one of the major contributors beyond just your chapter. Anyway, 2 points with regards to why I did this book. One is our younger son, Rob, does play-by-play for the Bonnyville Pontiacs here in the Alberta Provincial Junior A. We always listen to him, no matter where we are, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to do the book. The other reason is, and I want you to think of yourself, you're doing play-by-play, and a certain player has the puck, and you can very easily say who he is, where he's from, the points, goals, and assists, perhaps, whether or not he's been drafted. As listeners, we get a whole bunch of detail about the players from you play-by-play broadcasters. What we don't get is your background, and that's what I wanted to get into with regards to the book. So where you're from, where you've been, and those kinds of things. So that's, again, why I did it, and those were the kinds of things I asked you to talk about in your chapters.
Very interesting. As you mentioned, I helped you connect with some people, which I'm looking forward to seeing the book because I recognize a lot of these voices and faces myself. I don't know how the editing process for something like this works, but have you got a chance to read all the individual chapters yourself? And if so, without spoiling the book, I guess, were there any stories that were particularly inspiring or just so out there that you were kind of taken aback?
During my academic career, I did a lot of writing of books and editing. 4 authored academic books, 16 edited, and so forth. I'm used to doing that. As a matter of fact, Rob, and this is the second hockey book. And when I did my first hockey book, Rob, our younger son, his comment was, finally, a book someone might read. And so I think it's only fair that as the author/editor, I read every word in all of these chapters. And I think that's necessary. Quite frankly, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't work at all. It was very enjoyable. Pretty well everyone, actually, played hockey to some degree. And there came a time when they thought, I'm not going to go much further as a player, but I want to stay involved. And so there was the switch from either a player or, in your case, quite frankly, a very serious hockey fan, and you wanted to stay involved. And one of the ways to stay involved was to get into play-by-play. Different ways of getting into play-by-play, either working for the team or working for a radio station, having gone to a college or university to take courses with regards to communication or even play-by-play broadcasting. I really have to come up with a number, but a lot of the play-by-play broadcasters played goal when they played, and I found that quite interesting.
I guess there might be a connection there. They're kind of seeing the whole game unfold, being a bit removed from it, perhaps, would be my guess as to the link there. But that you have written other books as well, or at least one other book. Tell us about your background as an author.
In academia, that's something that was important as far as performance as an academic. A number of written books, edited books, journal articles, conference papers. I always sarcastically complain it forced us to go to New Zealand and Australia a number of times. My wife and I have been very lucky to be able to travel like that. And so that was just the reason. That a lot of my research was one-on-one interviews. So it fit very well for both of these hockey books that I would sit and interview a particular person. The first book, it's called The Older I Get, the Better I Was. I found out later that a golfer had actually come up with that term, but I had been using that for a number of years to explain to our sons what a great goalie I was when I played. And again, I didn't go very far. But that particular book is about the hockey experiences of people in the Lethbridge area, like current mayor, ex-mayor, president of the university, and then some lesser-known people like myself. I have a chapter in my book, interesting. And I say experiences with hockey because the first chapter is 7 hockey moms spending an evening describing their experiences of taking the kids to games and so forth and tournaments.
And that sounds like an interesting read as well. And regarding this book, as we were talking just before I started recording and working on seeing if we can get this locally, but if for whatever reason that falls through, how can people get their hands on Hockey Talk, Stories Behind the Voice?
And get onto the internet and get out to the University of Lethbridge bookstore, which is bookstore.uleth.ca. They can either Google Hockey Talk or search under my name, Hunter, and that will take you directly to actually both books at the U of L bookstore.
Well, we wish you all the best. I certainly enjoyed being a part of it. I know it must have been a lot of work to individually work with all these people, so hopefully everything goes well with it. Thanks for this, Gordon. Thanks for telling us all about it.
Okay, you're very welcome, Patrick. Nice talking to you.
That's Gordon Hunter, Professor Emeritus at the University of Lethbridge and author of Hockey Talk Stories Behind the Voice, joining us at the intermission. You're listening to McDonald Auto Group, Screaming Eagles Hockey, 1270 CJCB.